Hey everyone, it's Brody here and I'm reviewing Lapidus Homme by the fragrance house of Ted Lapidus. This fragrance was released in 1987, which was an amazing year. This fragrance features a cacophony of notes. It's ridiculous. And contrary to most reviews, I'm not going to list them all because just go for granted you can read them yourself if that's something that interests you. The thing is, there's about 50,000 bazillion notes in here, but it's really hard to pick them out. To me, the scent just kind of hits you like just a smack in the face. To me, there's not much note separation here. I'm never sure if that's a sign of good blending. I don't know. Like sometimes I feel it can be a good thing and other times I feel like it's a bad thing. I feel like this would benefit from better note separation. I find it hard to actually discern many things besides, once you spray it on, there's a very fruity kind of obnoxiously loud, fruity and quite synthetic, pineapple-y with a shit ton of honey behind it. Oddly enough, the honey in here doesn't give it a pissy nature. Honey has this tendency in fragrances to give it a very, like I said, a pissy scent, but I don't get that in here. It just kind of gives it this very sweet, and combined with stuff like the fruity note, it just goes to the extreme. That doesn't stay for too long. It does start to dry down and it becomes this almost like a musty scent. Not musky, but like musty as in, imagine you opened up like a cupboard that hadn't been opened for 25 years and there's like all dust and stuff inside. You can imagine that almost stale like air. Yeah, it kind of has that to it. I think there's a patchouli quite heavily in here, which does become prominent in the base. And so I did talk about note separation earlier, but once this does dry down, I do believe it becomes better. So yeah, this is quite a complex fragrance, with such a litany of notes. There's always something new to catch on here. So there's a good scent progression too. Like how it does develop from the top to the base is interesting, and there's a definite shift. That fruitiness does seem to persist throughout the entire duration of the fragrance. However, the sweetness does reduce, and then more classical elements of powerhouse fragrances sort of come into play. So things like oak moss. There's a prominent incense in here too. I think there's a bit of tobacco. And yeah, I don't know, man. People compare this to Kouros. I personally don't see it. They're similar in the sense of sharing the style. They are the same genre, but in terms of how they smell, I don't see the similarity there at all. This is fairly cheap. I think you can get a new bottle for about £18. And yeah, I didn't pay that much for this. This is a 2010 batch. I wouldn't call that vintage. Seeing as the fragrance is close to it's over 30 years old, I wouldn't say a bottle from 10 years really counts as vintage in my eyes. I think by now this would have gone through several reformulations and kind of IFRA restrictions would have, put limits on things like oak moss and whatnot. But I don't know, I was really expecting to love this fragrance, but somehow it just doesn't do it for me. The times that I've worn this, it's been an enjoyable experience, but I wouldn't say that it's amazing. So I'm not sure. I am a bit disappointed that this hasn't clicked for me, but I've given it many wearings. I've had this bottle now for a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And yeah, I decided I'm just getting rid of it because I don't really reach for it, and if I reduce the number of fragrances that I own, it means it's easier for me to actually pick something else. I have, many fragrances from the 80s, and they're in this genre. So having sold this, I'm not going to miss it, to be honest. So I'm going to just rate this a 7 out of 10. It's getting a high score basically because it's quite cheap, and the scent you're getting for that money is really good. If you like it. I mean, I can understand and I appreciate the complexity and the quality, the notes that have gone into here. Once it dries down, they become more apparent, but at the top, it seems a bit cheaper to me. The longevity is fantastic. You're looking at 10 plus hours with fantastic projection. It's a strong scent by all means. But yeah, it's not for me. So 7 out of 10, that's Lapidus Homme. That's my review. Bye.